Yay! We're
Ladies,
here.
ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Amsterdam Talk Season 4, Episode 24. And tonight we bring in Miss Dana Diaz. How you doing, Miss Dana Diaz?
I am doing very well. How are you doing?
I'm all right. Before we get started, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh, I'm not that narcissistic. I'm just a human being like everybody else. Mom, wife, I have a cat, I write books, normal stuff.
Okay, you've done things of narcissistic abuse, the
Yes.
push and pull, a romantic relationship with a narcissist, lifelong effects of a
Yes.
narcissist, healing from a
Yes.
narcissist,
Yes.
and loving from a narcissist.
Yes, yes, yes. Narcissistic Parents. That book is actually coming out in the next day or two, the second book, which talks about being raised by two narcissistic parents. So I have 48 years under my belt of narcissistic abuse experience. Lucky me. But the good news is that I can share my wisdom with everybody else so they don't fall into the same traps that I did.
I get it. So this is how gasping for air came about.
It sure is. It's actually kind of a wild story of how the book actually came to be. So, I was with my ex husband. I was still married to him during COVID.
Hmm.
And about a week before the shelter in place, I went to an attorney to talk about divorce. It was the sixth attorney that I ever spoke to about divorce, but I had never filed. But this time I said, I'm done. I'm over it. Got to get out of this. And a week later we go into the shelter in place. So I don't want to give too much of what's in the book, but let's look at what narcissistic abuse is, because a lot of people don't know what it is. It's just when a narcissist abuses you. But the problem with it is that narcissists will use physical, verbal, sexual, financial, legal, gaslighting, manipulation. They will even engage in domestic violence and even kill you. So this is what narcissistic abuse is and the reality that victims live in. So I had endured 20 some years already of this, constant push and
Hmm.
pull is a nice way to put it. But here I'm stuck in a
Hmm.
house during COVID with a man who actually told our
Hmm.
neighbors that he was planning to kill me. And I honestly
Mm.
thought that I was going to slip down the stairs or that something was going to happen to me to make it look like an accident and nobody would ever know because the whole world was shut down and everybody was hiding. So I started keeping a journal, just a regular notebook like that I took out of my son's closet from like the fourth grade, that
Mm.
had drawings and stuff on it because it was
Right.
inconspicuous. Nobody would suspect it was anything other than just some kid's notebook. And I started keeping track of all the stuff that was happening, stuff he was saying to me, because every time I confronted him about something, he never said that. He never did that. I'm crazy. I'm jumping to conclusions, whatever it was. So I needed something to make sure I knew what was what. And honestly, if something had happened to me, I needed to make sure somebody would find that notebook and know who to point to. So after everything was said and done, and I talked to attorney number 7 when the courts finally reopened,
Hmm.
um, towards the fall of 2020, I finally got my divorce, um, and decided to turn that notebook into a book. I expanded on those experiences because, the other thing is that narcissists like to isolate you.
Hmm.
They like to keep you from family and friends. They don't like you to be out in the world. They just want to be your only influence and for you to be dependent on them for everything. So, I mean, I didn't even have a smartphone until
Right.
after he moved out because he didn't like me on the internet. I didn't need to read books, none of that. And when we got divorced and I'm like, "Holy cow, this is a thing." I thought it was just me, and here I'm finding men and women are being treated like this. This is narcissistic abuse is actually a phenomena, for lack of better words. So I felt a responsibility because I had a degree in journalism and I was able to actually express and accurately verbalize all the things that I had gone through, that I should write these stories to help other victims understand the reality of their lives as well.
Right. So, oh, come on, let's go back. Let's go back. So you said you didn't even have it was 2020 and you didn't have a smartphone. What did you have then?
I had one of those little sliding ones. I could text and have calls, but he didn't even like me texting or calling. He tracked everything.
Oh, so you had a phone that still had the game Snake on it.
I don't even know if I had games on it. I just knew I could text and call. That I couldn't do emojis, none of that. It
Oh
was,
man.
I know it's wild, but God forbid if I opened my laptop, what he would tell me I'm not paying attention to him. Close my laptop. I don't need to be on the internet. So it was like a whole new world when I came out of that marriage. I was like,
How long were
all of
you
these
married?
things. We were together 25 years, married just about 20. We got divorced right before our 20th wedding
And
anniversary.
none of this was seen in the 25 years?
Not by anyone else. Very few. Some people kind of sensed there was something going on.
Right.
But it's a very typical thing when you're being abused, whether you're a child or you're a grown person, you're scared. These
Right.
people have terrified you. I mean, one of the things that I talk about quite often is that he kept this very nasty switchblade like right beside him. He kind of had a post on the living room sofa,
Mm,
and that knife served as sort of a shock collar for
right.
me, so that I knew that I couldn't step out of line. I couldn't say something. I couldn't do it. If I so much as looked at him the wrong way, I feared what would happen. And when you're talking about somebody who I have texts and emails and, witness that he wanted me dead, you sort of keep your mouth shut. You don't want to expose them out of fear of what might happen if they found out.
Okay. All right. So you talked about, what narcissistic abuse is. So are all narcissists abusive?
No, no. And that's the kicker. And thank you for bringing that up because I want to be very clear. Right. People are using the word narcissist and assuming it means something nasty. So
Hmm.
here's what I'll tell people. This is how I explain it. They're like tumors, right? You can have a
Hmm.
benign tumor that's just there, it's not bothering you. Those are the people you see on social media.
I
They've
have
got the
one.
abs, they've got, you know what I mean? Like they actually look as good as they think they do. So you want to hate them, but you really can't. You're just more envious.
Right.
Those are your typical narcissists, because really, narcissist, the word comes from the Greek god Narcissus, who liked to look at his reflection in the water because he apparently thought he was handsome. So these are people, it's supposed to mean somebody who's really full of the way they look and really feeling good about themselves in that way. But we have, on the other hand, the malignant tumors, those malignant narcissists. They
Hmm.
might cause you problems. They might even kill you. And the only way to get out of it is to cut them out of your life, just like you would cut them out of your body. And
Right.
these are the people you see on true crime shows like 2020 and 48 Hours. And, these are the people committing domestic violence and in prisons. And it's really sad to think that they say that 1 out of every 3 women is in a
Hmm.
relationship with this type of narcissist, and 1 out of every 4 men. And ironically, most of the men that have come forward to me about
Hmm.
their experiences are veterans. These are military men who are being abused in this way by women. So it's really interesting. I don't know if, what the correlation is there, but very interesting things, but it can go both ways. And I think that's the most important thing to think about this, because I think more so people think that women get abused because, they assume the woman has the black eye or whatever. Well, let me tell you, it can go both ways. Women can be just as abusive, and we also have the power of, using pregnancy and other sexual ways to abuse men. So it is something that's very real for a lot of men as well.
Okay. So you spoke of, emotional manipulation, lack of empathy, excessive
Yes.
criticism and blame, idealization, devaluation, isolation, exploitation, and of course, gaslighting.
Yes.
So there are the seven conduits, I would say, of a narcissistic person.
100%. I think we all have narcissistic traits, and there's reasons why. We could get into a whole psychological evaluation of everybody. But the two that I think are the most important for people to remember is a lack of remorse and a lack of empathy.
Okay.
Because your abusive narcissists, those really bad narcissists, They honestly do not have any remorse whatsoever. They actually feel justified in how they mistreat you and how they smear your name and how they ruin your life in whatever way. They will actually go so far as to blame you for what they're doing to you.
Mm.
And you'll never get an apology. And on the rare occasion you do, it'll be, I'm sorry, but you, and they turn it right back out onto you because their ego can't withstand the possibility, the offense that they might possibly be, a little flawed, or I don't know, a human being. So they have no remorse and they have no empathy. They honestly do not care. And I think that the problem is that most people don't want to listen to the way people treat them. They hear the words, I love you. I had a bad day. I'm sorry I took that out on you. Those are the things that narcissists will say to lure you back and make you feel like it was just a fluke. I promise I'll never do that again. I love you. It'll never happen again. And then they do it again because they don't care. They do not care about you. They only care about making themselves feel superior and above you. And they do that by overpowering and controlling you.
Mm. So I guess we could say, we talked about the conduits of it. So what are some of the signs that, people are in a relationship like that?
Well, there's a lot of signs. I always tell people, honestly, though, don't look at the other person. Don't look at what we call red flags in other people, because what's a red flag to you might not be a red flag to me.
Right.
Everybody's different. I always say, listen to yourself. If something doesn't resonate good with you, if your gut is telling you something is off, if you feel like they're lying to you, things like that, that they're not authentic, that they're not genuine, whatever it is, you don't even have to have a reason. I mean, I always look at like how, like, I know we all have like that one person in our life, if we're lucky, maybe more than one, where the second we met them, we just clicked.
Mhm.
Everything was just like, oh my God, where have you been all my life? You're finishing my sentences. You get me. I don't have to explain myself. But we don't do that in romantic relationships. And I think because we're so impatient, we want things to happen on our time. We want to force that puzzle piece into that spot where it doesn't quite fit, but it almost does.
Right.
And that's where we go wrong. But I mean, I'm going to say that, I think we can all agree, narcissism or not, if somebody calls you names, vulgar names, is disrespectful to you or your parents or your kids or your grandma or whatever, if they're rude to other people, things like that, who the hell wants
Hmm.
to be with somebody like that anyway? That's, to me, not a sign of a good person. So it's just more listening. Look and listen, and don't listen to words, look at actions, because we can all say all kinds of things, but what somebody actually does shows you how they feel about you.
Well, that's always the case. You could say anything, but the best, apology is change behavior.
100%. Yes.
So, okay, with that, without behavior changing or anything, and people just saying I'm sorry and just doing the bare minimum, why do people stay in these abusive relationships?
A million reasons. I can speak for myself. When you're with somebody and you have invested years with them, time with them,
Hmm.
you stay, you have hope. You think that, for me, I thought, well, when we get older, we were 19 and 21. As we grow older, he'll mature, things will get better, he'll soften up. Didn't happen. Then when you move in together, whether you're married or not, you move in. Now you've got a mortgage together or rent together, you're combining finances. If you have a kid together or more than one kid, now you're trying to stay together because you think you're doing the right thing by keeping the family unit together for your kids.
Hmm.
Then your families know each other, and you just get deeper and deeper with this person. I mean, even without narcissism or violence in the picture, it's not realistic to just say, not happy, I'm over you, I'm out. Like, that's not realistic. You have kids, who gets the dog, who gets the house, can you afford to live somewhere else? What if one person isn't working? There's a gazillion reasons, but I think one of the main ones is that you do have hope. And I think we all, at least those of us that are hopeful and have loving hearts, we want to believe the person when they say that they're going to try and that they're going to be better and things will be different or whatever it is. We want to have hope that eventually things will change. And, I have even seen some people just kind of let it all go and give up. And so they just go on, and one day rolls into another, and then 5 years and 10 years and 20 years. And next thing you know, there you are. I mean, it's interesting. I have this funny story that I was told by an attorney. She said that she had an 87-year-old couple come to her wanting a divorce. And she said, as politely and professionally as she could, you're 87. Like, at this point, why bother? You're going to be dead soon, So, but they said no, that they had been wanting to divorce since they were in their 20s, but they didn't want to disappoint their parents or their kids or their grandkids. But they decided they did not want to die still being married to each other. So, at least we get a little humor out of their story, but good for them that, they finally achieved what they both wanted in that. But, you stay together for a lot of reasons, but sometimes it has nothing to do with your happiness or your love for the other person.
Correct. So, so since you're saying that, so what point in your marriage did you decide to say, hey, let me to pack it in and get up out of here?
That's the sad part. I tried about a month or two in. Then it was about 3 or 4 months in. And then next thing you know, I bought into the promises and the idea that things would get better. And I remember the wedding march starting to play on my wedding day. And I literally thought, what the hell am I doing? What the hell am I doing? We have no business marrying each other. I honestly thought as I walked down the aisle, we're going to get divorced. There's no way we're going to be in for it for the long haul. But after we were married, it only took maybe 4 or 5 years before I was like, I can't do this. I cannot do this the rest of my life. But 15 years later, I finally get the divorce. So, again, it's just not that easy. We can't all just up and walk out whenever we decide. There's a lot of reasons that we decide to stay, but definitely, I think hope is one of them. You always just hope things are going to get better because nobody gets married to get divorced. At least I hope not.
No, and that's a big thing. A lot of people live on hope.
Yes.
They always tell you, the glass is half full. You hope the grass is green on the other side. But then again, you got to realize what people are putting on their lawn over there to keep it fertilized, to keep it green. So,
yep, a lot of poop.
Yeah, it's a lot of stuff that you got to look at.
Yeah.
This hope with the whole hope thing.
Yes.
It's crazy. So, okay, so you said that in the 5 years you was ready to roll, but it wound up taking another 15 years. So what would you tell a person right now? Like, what advice would you give someone who's in an abusive relationship with a narcissist?
I would tell them to listen to their heart because unfortunately, some people, depending on the level of abuse, the severity of abuse, I hate to say it, but some people are safer staying. I don't ever want somebody or to suggest that somebody leaves and then they're, killed or something happens to their children, or I've seen animals killed in vengeful acts. We don't want to see any harm done. But if it's safe to leave, my advice is just to know that there are resources out there. I think a lot of people worry about, what about my kids? Do I have enough, income to take care of them, to shelter them, to provide for them? There are resources everywhere. There's good people everywhere. You will never go without shelter, food, clothing, etc. It might take some time, to reestablish the lifestyle that you're used to. But I think if it's something that's, the severity of abuse is that bad, it might be better for you and your children to get out sooner than later. I think one of my biggest regrets is that I didn't get out. I had kind of an opportunity to get out in a more amicable way when my son was 2 years old. And even though I did not want to be in the marriage anymore, I thought I was doing the right thing by keeping our family together. And looking back, I wish I would have just gone with it. I think my son would have been much better off, in many ways, not being raised in that tense and hostile environment. But it is what it is, and we make the best of it going forward.
So okay, so you say you had a kid involved, so you stayed and he grew up in this environment that was not
Yes.
that was kind of that was toxic. How was it
Yes.
today between the three of you?
Well, I mean, obviously, when somebody wants to kill you, you don't remain friends after divorce.
Right.
So I have had no contact. As a matter of fact, it started with a no contact order that he certainly violated. But I have remained no contact with him, with the exception of course, when our son graduated, things like that. There have only been two instances where we were both in the same place. And, you know, I was polite. We didn't exchange words or anything, but for polite sake, for our son's sake, we kept things. I guess we just maintained silence to keep the peace. But my son has a relationship with his dad. He has a relationship with me. We do not talk about his dad when we are together. My son and I, our
Hmm.
relationship is ours, and that's it. He has approached me many, many times, saying that his dad said this or said that, and that it contradicts what anything that I have said or done. And I tell him whatever is between me and his dad is between me and his dad. And if his dad wants to involve him, by saying things, by saying anything to him, I don't personally agree with that, and I'm not going to discuss it. I tell him all the time, all you need to know is I love you. You and I are good. The end. You don't got to worry about that stuff. That's between me and your dad. And I hope it stays quiet, and I hope we remain no contact.
Okay. All right. So, there's always inside a relationship, there's the people that's in it, and then there's those who are on the outside looking in.
Hmm.
So, what can others do if they think someone they know is in that type of relationship?
So this is the toughest part of it, especially for me, because I have been that person that has been on the inside, and now I've been in a couple situations where I sense things from the outside. And I tell people the hard part is this. It's kind of like if you have an intervention with an alcoholic or a drug addict,
Hmm.
you can tell them all the reasons. You can give them logic, proof, perfectly reasonable, reasons that they should quit whatever it is. You
Hmm.
can tell somebody, I am concerned. I don't want you to be in if somebody's trying to kill you, maybe that's not your person. I don't know, minor details. But the problem is they have to be the one. There is nothing anybody can say or do to make somebody want to walk out on their relationship. If anything, if you notice it and you confront them, it might actually bond them more with that person, because they'll feel like in their head they have to justify to themselves why they're staying. So my advice and what worked and helped me, I remember I was sitting in church one time, just took communion. I'm a good Catholic girl. And I'm on my knees praying after communion, and I had tears because it was towards the end of that marriage, and it was just getting so bad, and I was scared, and there was a lot of stuff being said and done, domestic violence, all this stuff. And the elderly woman that sat in the pew behind me, when she came around after she took communion, she just like kind of squeezed my shoulder, but she held it for a moment, just, and I could feel like I understand, I see you, I hear you. Like she could hear my soul crying. And to me, I guess it just I felt validated, even though no words, were being spoken. So um I think just letting people know you're there, that lets them know that if they do have the, necessity, or to want to talk about something, or that they need help maybe getting out, that they know they can come to you. And sharing, things like this, like this talk that we're having, because sometimes if somebody hears it from somebody else, it's better than hearing it from you, somebody who is more subjective and more involved in their life.
Well, that's what we try to do on this platform right here. We bring people on with authentic stories, so we never know what anybody's going through. So if you're not live and if you're not live and you may catch it on Apple
Right.
podcasts or whatever, Spotify. You never know what people may be going through, and they might hear you and say, "Hey, I was listening to Amsterdam talking. Dana Diaz told me I should get the hell out of this because this is going to happen." I mean, because I'm going to ask you though, how does a narcissistic abuse affect one's life? And this is the thing they need to know, like what's going in the long run. Like, how does it affect one's life?
Well, I'll tell you the biggest effect it has had on my life. I mean, I think it's obvious to anybody that, there was anxiety and hypervigilance and fear and all this stuff, depression even for a while. There were points where I was like, I don't even want to live this life anymore. Not that I was suicidal, but I was like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to be this person. I don't want to be this man's wife. I don't want to be in this house. But I wasn't going to leave my kid. But I think it's really important for people to understand that there are physical consequences as well. And that's what actually ended up motivating me to leave. It's funny that people always, think they know what's going to make them leave. Oh, if he cheats on me, I'm out of this marriage. If they do this, if that was me, I'd be out of there. Well, guess what? Cheating happened before, happened after, all kinds of things. Swung a crowbar at my head. There's knives, there's guns, there's prescription medication, and yet I was still there. You know what the deal breaker was for me? And I never saw this coming. I was living under so much stress and fight
Mm,
or flight mode constantly that stress hormone cortisol was running at such astronomically high rates through my body that it ended up making me very ill. I dropped almost 20 pounds within 2 weeks. I
mm,
was a skeletal 93 pounds, which, at 44 looks great in a bikini, but not how you should look. It's skeletal and weird and looks like a Halloween decoration. But I couldn't breathe. I was having neurological, visual, digestive, muscular, all kinds of problems. Long and short, Mayo Clinic says all that cortisol made you
mm,
autoimmune and it gave a lung disease. It gave me a rare lung disease, but guess what? It's common among abuse victims. It's called upper airway resistance syndrome. And the
mm.
neurologist said it's like having COPD and fibromyalgia all at the same time. So I was juggling all the symptoms, a couple dozen symptoms every day. And still to this day, I have stress triggered symptoms, and it could be anything. So it makes it very difficult for me to say, yes, I'll be at the baptism or the wedding, or let's go out for dinner, because on the day of, I never know how I'm going to feel. I could be fine now and not fine in 5 minutes. And it's a very difficult thing. And that all happened because of the years and years of living under all that stress. So, yes, people do need to be aware, because it's not just about the mental trauma, the betrayal, and the angst, and all this stuff. Your body, when you hold that all in, when you repress all those emotions, then your body starts turning against you too. And your body says, F you. Like, you
Mm.
won't take care of your mental health. Well, now we're going to give you problems too. And then you're a whole damn mess. And that's not too much fun to deal with.
Well, how does your husband now? How does he deal with that?
My current husband, he's very patient. I've known him for many, many years. Thank God, because believe me, I was not trying to date or marry or do anything with
Right.
anybody after what I went through. I needed a minute, but he had been a longtime friend, and I actually knew his family, some members of his family, for almost 20 years. So it was he's been very helpful. He knew what he was getting into. I said no to him several times,
Mm,
and then I finally gave in, because you know what? It is kind of nice to have somebody that I don't have to explain myself to, that is patient and gentle and understanding. But most importantly, he doesn't criticize me or judge me or shame me for anything I've been through, anything from the past, anything currently. He kind of rolls. He's I call him my gentle giant. He just kind of rolls with all of it. We call me a little spicy some days, and other days I'm nice and sweet, but it is what it is, and we're working on it. Healing is a long time process and a long journey, especially when you're looking at, I also had my childhood, with two abusive parents that I had to deal with as well.
mm. Well, thank you for sharing your story with us, but we've reached the part of the show that's called I Be Damn, where people send in date stories. And if you ever listen to the show, people send in date stories and things happen. Nobody dies or nobody gets hurt. It's just like some weird shit that happens. And it normally ends up crazy. So we get this in. It says, I met Marcus in New Orleans doing Essence Fest. He's from Chicago. We bonded. My partner my partner and my teens were back home in Houston, so I was free. Marcus spent the night in my room. He robbed me as I slept. My friends helped me get home. Problem: Marcus stole my license, and I've seen him in my neighborhood in Houston. He knows he robbed me. He knows I can't confront him without exposing what we did. I ignored him, but why is he near my home? So is he going to rob me again? Do I tell my partner of what I've done? I be damned. So this is what happened.
Eek. Yeah, that's a tough one. I like to say that for a healthy relationship, you don't want to keep secrets from your partner. Oh, I might get in trouble if I answer what I'd actually do. I'm not so sure I'd tell my husband about that, but I would definitely report it to the police, because people don't realize you can go to the police station or your county police, whatever, and make a report and nobody will know about it, but at least they have it on file. So there's a paper trail, so that if something else happens with this guy, there'll be a previous report of something he did that will help to, get him prosecuted much more quickly. But as far as telling the husband, yes, the correct, the angel on the one shoulder is telling me, no, of course you tell him, and you got to be honest. We all make mistakes, and hopefully he can give you that grace. But the devil on the other side is like, girl, are you kidding me? Like, he doesn't need to know that. He does not need to know that. That's just gonna get you in more trouble.
Oh man, well that's this week's I Be Damned. So if you're looking for Dana Diaz, you can see her on Facebook.com at Dana Diaz, the author on IG, Dana S. Diaz, and the website DanaSDiaz.com. Um Normally people come on here and I always ask them, do you like have like lives or anything that go on during the week where people can just join you and just hear you talk?
You know what? I am going to be doing more of that in the coming months. Right now, I am, like I said, this week, my second book is coming out, Choking on Shame, The Scapegoat Child in a Narcissistic Family. And then my third book is in progress, the final book in the Narcissistic Trilogy. So by the end of this year, I will definitely be doing more lives. So I would say go to the website, follow me on Facebook, follow me on Instagram. I will definitely be posting updates on that so that you can find me on those lives when I start doing them.
Okay, remember, people, is Dana S. Diaz, the author, on Facebook, Dana S. Diaz on IG, and DanaSDiaz.com is the website. And you can pick up the book, Gasping for Air and Choking on Shame. Is it on Amazon?
It is, of course, on Amazon, ebook or print, whichever you prefer.
All right. So thank you for stopping by. Thank you for giving us your story. You know what? I've got to get better at this, because I always say next week, same time, same channel, 7 p.m., but I never know who's coming. And I have the calendar, and I have a calendar. That's the crazy part. So next week, 7 p.m., same time, episode 25. I'm not sure who's going to be here. I really don't know right now, because I can't. The computer shut down and the camera went down. So just reach in if you're looking for Amsterdam Talk on Amsterdam Talk. Or it's on IG. Or if not, you can just email me, and I can tell you exactly who will be on next week. But if not, tune in next week, 7 p.m., same time, same channel, Amsterdam Talk. Thank you for coming through, Dana. It was a
Thank you
pleasure
so
having
much.
you.
You
And I'll
as well.
see you guys next week.
Bye.